لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه وبركاته عليه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. اتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As in preparation for this tremendous month, that's approximately maybe 3 weeks that's left in Sha'ban until we enter upon Ramadan. In preparation for that, we wanted to enlighten ourselves. We wanted to enlighten ourselves and prepare ourselves by attaining ilm and preparing our sisters for this month, especially in regards to the ahkam about a woman's mens, and tied it in with siyam. We talked about a little bit about al-hayd, the 3 types of blood that emanates from a woman or comes out. What comes out of the woman is 3 types. Excuse me, everyone, but seasonal allergies, so everyone just bear along with me. With regards to the 3 types of blood, number 1 is the woman's mens. The woman's mens, in which the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, you'll find that Ahl Ilm talks about this type of blood, the blood of a woman's mens. So the hadith of Fatima bint Hubaysh is كانت تستحاض فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن دم الحيض دم أسود يعرف فإذا كان ذلك فأمسكي عن الصلاة فإذا كان الآخر فتوضئي وصلي. رواه أبو داود النسائي وصححه ابن حبان والحاكم واستنكره أبو حاتم. طيب. So the first type of blood that comes out from a woman we know is what, everyone? Is a mens. Usually a mens has 3 types of characteristics. A woman's mens has 3 types of characteristics, in which was mentioned this hadith, which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned to Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh. She said she had istihada. That's the other type of blood in which we'll talk about. So the first type of blood is a woman's mens. That's category 1. The second type of blood that comes out from a woman is called istihada. Istihadatun. Istihada. Istihada is an irq. You'll find as a narration of the Prophet ﷺ, it's kind of like a hemorrhage from a ruptured vein. So it has nothing to do with a woman's mens. It's a total different hukum, total different ruling for this type of blood. So verily, we'll talk about the narration where the Prophet ﷺ said that it's a irq, it's a ruptured vein, which resembles a type of hemorrhage. So a woman might see it and think it's a mens, but in actuality, it isn't. You'll find that in another narration, which we'll discuss, the Prophet ﷺ actually said it's a kick from shaitan. So shaitan comes to the woman, and shaitan loves to play with women. He loves to play with their emotions. He loves to play with their mind. And he just even likes to play with their mens, to cause them strife, to cause them what? Hardship. So he kicks the vein and ruptures it. So a woman would think it's a mens, but in actuality it isn't. It's something else. It's the reason why we tell especially our sisters, to constantly make those supplications of the morning and the evening. Don't forget, please. We live in days and times, we are at the peak of the height of fitna these days. And all the different types of fitna that can affect our minds, affect our iman, affect a lot of things. Especially all the shayateen that are here in this country, whether they be from the unseen shayateen or the shayateen that are in the form of human beings that are trying to affect us. For that reason, I constantly remind our brothers and sisters, especially our sisters. Why I say our sisters? Because shaitan loves to play with women. He loves it. And he knows that he can stir up fitna through women. He loves to stir up fitna through women. Because he knows women are what? Emotional. And they follow their feelings too much. My heart feels this just is right. My heart feels this. My heart feels. That's a problem. How many times have we followed our hearts and then found in the end it was wrong? It was wrong what we were feeling. So that's the reason why our sisters should make dua of the morning and the evening. Memorize those dua and do them every morning and the evening. Don't forget, the evening is not after Maghrib. The evening is after Asr. So in the morning and evening. So you can repel the whispers of shaitan from yourself. Because like we said, shaitan loves to play with a woman's emotions, play with her mind, and he likes to also harm her through her mints. To the point where the Prophet ﷺ said he comes to the vein of the woman and kicks it to rupture it. So a hemorrhage would come out. So a woman now, how many from our sisters are plagued with this? They'll come, they'll be like, wow, I have blood one day, then it stopped here, then I had discoloration here, then I had this here, then I had this another hour, then another day, and then Do I pray? Do I fast? What do I do? I don't know. That's the reason why we learn these ahkam. So the first thing is to remind ourselves of the supplications that we do in the morning and evening. Because those supplications, especially for our sisters, are very important. Because they'll protect you from every type of evil that's out here. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made these narrations as a means to protect ourselves from the shaitan and what he tries to do in order the shaitan that he does in order to what? Cause confusion in our minds and in our religions, and also with our families. With our families and with our children and with our spouses. Shaitan wants to destroy all that with our relationships with who we love, relationships with who, especially in our families, relationships in general, and he loves to do it through playing with the emotions of women. He loves it. So in this regard, you'll find a hadith of Fatima bint Hubaysh. She said the second type of blood. So we said the second one is what, everyone? What they call istihada. So it's a type of hemorrhage of blood. So it's a ruptured vein that the shaitan comes and he kicks it. So that's the second type of blood. And that type of blood is the opposite of the first type, which is hayd, which is actual mense. And the ahkam of istihada is the opposite of the ahkam of hayd, of a mense. It's the total opposite. Because a woman can pray while she's on istihada. She can also fast while she's on istihada. And we'll talk about all that inshallah. And a man can divorce his wife while she's on istihada, because it's not a mense. We'll talk about that in a minute inshallah. Anyway, the third type of blood is called nufasa. Nufasa. Nufasa is postnatal bleeding that usually comes after a woman has a baby, or slightly right before she's about to have a baby. Like a woman usually in certain cases can have blood coming out maybe at the end towards the pregnancy when she's about to give birth to the child. And what usually is the sign is the contractions. So when a woman starts having contractions, but she didn't have the baby yet, and if she sees blood, even though she didn't give birth to the baby yet, then that's usually a sign that postnatal bleeding started already, before the actual birth. But the sign, like we talked about before, is usually what, everyone? The contractions. Right, everyone? Just as the sign of a woman giving birth, just as the sign in a lot of cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases, that when a woman is having a mens, she usually has what, everyone? Cramps. Right? Not all cases, but in a lot of cases, right? Usually woman gets her, when she's having her monthly cycle, a lot of women complain about her having what? Having cramps. Am I right or wrong? G. So that's usually a sign that what? That's usually a sign that woman is, that blood, usually that's a sign to show that that blood that's coming out of her is immense. That's a clear sign. It's a clear sign. So that's the three types of blood, right, everyone? So your first type of blood, you have hayd, you have immense. The second type of blood is what? Istihada. Istihada. So istihada is what? They usually call it a hemorrhage. You even find Ahl Ilm, they call it damu fasad. About to sneeze. Alhamdulillah. You'll find the second category, Ahl Ilm usually call that type of blood damu fasad. Damu fasad. Damu fasad. Blood that's basically blood that is not corrupt blood, but you would say that it's like a bad type of hemorrhage type blood, or blood that is bad blood due to a ruptured vessel or ruptured vein is inside the woman. You usually find they either call it istihada, or you'll find that Ahl Ilm call it damu fasad. Damu fasad or damun fasid. Meaning blood that's not immense, but it's something else. It's a hemorrhage. طيب. Also this hadith. So now let's go back to the first category, which is what they call hayd, a woman's mens. Some people in Ahl Ilm call it tamth instead of hayd. Tamth. Oh, don't worry about that word. Just leave it to the side. That's just something extra. Tamth. Hayd is the most famous. Hayd, woman's hayd. But some of the words in Arabic is tamth, ta, mim, tha. Tamth. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, stick it to the first category. The first category, which is a woman's mens. طيب. Fatima bint Hubaysh. She says she had istihada. So she had the second category. So the message of Allah said, verily, damul hayd, the woman's mens, he gave characteristics of it, the message of Allah in this narration. He said, damul hayd, damun aswad yu'raf. He says that the woman's mens, he says it's black and it has a smell. It has a smell. And you'll find another narration we'll talk about, inshallah, it's also thick, usually. So it's damun aswad yu'raf. It's a black type of blood, and it's yu'raf, meaning it has a araf, meaning it has a scent. People think it's saying meaning that it's known. No, it doesn't mean it's ma'ruf. No, it means a araf. As a araf in Arabic language means ra'iha, means scent. So the meaning of yu'raf here is ra'iha kariha, that it has a repugnant smell, or it has a smell. It has a smell to it, it has a scent. So then the Prophet ﷺ said to Fatima bint Abi Hubaysh, he said to her, فَإِذَا كَانَ كَذَلِكِ فَأَمْسِكِي عَنِ الصَّلَاةِ فَإِذَا كَانَ الْآخَرُ فَتَوَضَّئِي وَصَلِّي. So the Prophet ﷺ gave some details here. He said, if it's the first type, meaning the type which is considered mens, meaning that it has a black smell, or has a smell, and it's thick. He said, if you have that one, then refrain from praying. Right? Refrain from praying. Also, likewise, we could talk about and say that during this time, she also refrains from what, everyone? Fasting. Right? She refrains from fasting too. So a woman doesn't just abstain from the salat, she also abstains from siyam. Also likewise, فَإِذَا كَانَ الْآخَرُ فَتَوَضَّئِي وَصَلِّي. Then the message of Allah said, if you see the other type of blood. So the Prophet is given, there's two types of blood here. So he said, if it's the other blood, then make wudu and pray. Meaning, of course, purify the private part or clean it, of course, and sanitize or what have you, and clean the area or what have you, and make wudu and pray. So the message of Allah is talking about the first category. One, a woman does not what? She does not pray, nor does she fast. But the second one, she still what? Yeah, exactly. She still prays and fasts. So that shows that the message of Allah is talking about two different types of blood here. So you have mints, and then you have the second category, which is called istihada. Istihada. So that's one narration. You also have, so that's the first type in which a woman usually can know that what she has is a mens. So the first type or the first method is that, or the first category for the mens is number one, that is what is usually black, or has blackness to it, or what was thick, and it also has a smell to it. So that shows that right there is a woman's mens. That's a woman's mens. طيب. There's another narration on the authority Asma. Not Asma bint Abi Bakr. Rather here is bint Rumais. Bint Rumais. عند أبي داود. But the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned and said, وَلِتَجْلِسْ مَرْكَنٍ فَإِذَا رَأَتْ صُفْرَةً فَوْقَ الْمَاءِ فَلْتَغْتَسِلْ للظهر والعصر غسلا واحدا وتغتسل للمغرب والعشاء غسلا واحدا وتغتسل للفجر غسلا واحدا وتوضأ بين ذلك. طيب. There's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, it said in Sunan Abi Dawood, was another method where a woman can know whether or not she's on her mens or something else, or if it's the first category or the second category. Where he had said to her, sit in a markan, meaning in a type of container, or I guess in these days and times it probably will be a woman's bathtub. Sit in a markan. And if you see sufra, if you see some type of yellowness above the water, then make a ghusl for dhuhr and asr. So make a ghusl for dhuhr and asr. One ghusl. So here, she could what? He's telling her to combine. She could combine. For dhuhr and asr. Or for تغتسل for the dhuhr wal asr غسل واحدة. وتغتسل المغرب والعشاء غسل واحدة. That she makes a ghusl for dhuhr and asr, one ghusl. That's it if she wanted to combine. If she wanted to. That she can make it to pray dhuhr and asr. And also make a ghusl again for maghrib and al-isha. Then she would just make a ghusl for fajr. Then she said what? وَتَتَوَضَّى بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ. Then she can make wudu between that. طيب. What is the meaning of this hadith? Before everybody starts writing down, don't write anything down yet. Ooh, I must knock this down. Let's see that. جيد. For number one, we say in this regard that Asma bint Umais was a Sahabiya Jalila. Of course, Asma, not but Asma bint Abi Bakr. This is another Asma bint Umais. That she made hijrah twice, meaning from Mecca to Al-Madinah, hijratayn, the two migrations. She was on both. I think it was also to Habasha. So it wasn't only just from Mecca to Al-Madinah. Then we know also likewise that the Sahaba had went to Habasha. At any rate, Asma bint Umais, who was the wife of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. She was the mother of his children. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Ja'far. So she went to Habasha also for the message of Allah sallallahu to the end of it. He says, ثم استشهد جعفر في وقعة مؤتة. Of Ja'far, of course we know, had died a martyr in the battle what they call Mu'tah. So Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu married her. anyway, that's just a side benefit because we want to stay on point what we're speaking about now. But anyway, so Messenger of Allah ﷺ told her to sit in a container, what they call mirkan, to sit in a container, or sit in some type of place. Like we said, in these days of times, we know it as a bathtub. I think that would be the only option for a woman. He said, sit in that type of what? That container. That container which during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to wash their clothes. That she would sit in it and she would pour upon herself water. And if she seen yellowness rise above the water, that was the indication that what, everyone? Was it the first category or the second category of blood? Was it hayd or was it istihada? The answer is what? It's istihada. Because if it was immense, the Prophet ﷺ would just tell her to stay away from praying totally. Right? Due to the fact it's the second, which is called istihada. So in this narration, the Prophet ﷺ basically told her to test herself. If she's confused about the affair, it's not clear. فَتَجِسْ فِي هَذَا الْإِنَاءِ الْوَاسِعِ. She was sitting in this huge container. Pour water upon herself, and if she's seen yellowness about the water, then it's istihada, and it's considered what? Istihada. That's the reason he said to her, for that reason he said, make a ghusl for dhuhr and asr. One ghusl. And make a ghusl for maghrib and isha. One ghusl, to the end of the narration. For number one, about this narration, these are one of the ways in which a woman can also determine whether she has immense or what she has istihada. Whether she has hayd or she has istihada. He said, بيان كيف تعرف الاستحاضة نهاية حيضها. He said, where a woman can now what? Determine whether or not she has istihada or if it's at the end of her mens or what have you. Whereas she would test herself, sit in that tub, and she would pour that water on top of her, as it comes in the first hadith. So the first hadith, as we talked about, gave us one method of how a woman knows whether or not she's on her mens. Number one, we say it again. Number one, the first method is that it's what? Black, thick, and it has a smell. That's the first method. That's the first method. But that's not the best method. That's just one of the methods. So we gave one method. So, this is black, thick, has a smell. Keep repeating it. Black, thick, has a what? Jade. So that's one method of woman determining whether or not woman is on her mens. طيب. Now we go to another one. So the first one, we already just got the first method. That was the second one. The second one's clarified here in this narration. So she make a ghusl in that day. Basically, if she wanted 3 ghusls. One ghusl, whereas she can what? Perform dhuhr and asr. And one ghusl where she can combine maghrib and isha. And a ghusl for al-fajr. Whereas in the first hadith, notice if we said, the Prophet ﷺ said, make a wudu. In the first narration, just make a wudu. So now, if you look in the narration of one we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the Prophet ﷺ said, if it's the first type of blood, abstain from the salah. Meaning if it's hayd. And if it's the other type of blood, then what? Then pray. Go ahead and pray and fast to the end of it. However, you'll find in this narration, it says what? She makes a ghusl. And then between that, she could just make a wudu. So he said make a wudu. In this other narration, he said you can make a ghusl for these 2 salah, make another ghusl for the other salah, and just make a wudu between them. What does he mean by that here? So al-hadith al-awwal اقتصر على الوضوء فقد دل على أن هذا الاغتسال مستحب. So basically, just to sum up everything, keep it simple. So making a ghusl, when a woman making a ghusl because she's on istihada and she wanted to combine, is optional. It's not wajib. For example, she's finding hardship because she's finding difficulty. She might be on that second type of blood. Like we said, there's more details is to come, don't worry. Let's just say she's on istihada and she's like, subhanAllah, I'm on istihada. I've been bleeding for a long time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever. If she wanted to, she could what? Just make a wudu between the salat. Between each salat or for every salat. Or if she wanted to, she could combine. She could make a ghusl and pray dhuhr and asr together. Jayyid. Or she can what? Make another ghusl and pray maghrib and isha together. Jayyid. And for fajr, if you want to make a ghusl again, then she could do that. That is not wajib, but it's what? It's highly recommended. So it's optional. It's highly recommended. طيب. So that's a narration to show another way that a woman could determine whether or not she's on her mens or istihada. Whereas she gets in the tub, and if she sees some type of yellowness, then it goes to above the water. That's usually an indication that is istihada. It's either istihada, كيف تعرف الاستحاضة نهاية حيضها. She was what? That's usually to determine whether or not she's on her mens or not. She will pour that water, sit in the tub, the yellowness comes at the top. That's usually the indication that's usually istihada, if it's yellowness at the top, that rises to the top. So it shows now she can make a ghusl if she wanted to and could combine. Or if it's at the end of her mens, which other narrations of which is going to come inshallah. As we know, if a woman is at the end of her mens and it stopped, then she would just have to make a ghusl in order to pray generally. If it's the first category, not the second. Right? If it's a woman's on her mens, she has to make a ghusl in order to pray and fast. Or in order to pray, Not necessarily to fast. A woman does not have to make a ghusl to fast. There's a reason why I'm saying it, trust me. But a woman has to make a ghusl at the end of her mens, not istihada, at the end of her mens to pray. But not to fast. That's not a conditioned siyam. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? A woman does not have to be in a state of purity to start her siyam. Trust me, I know what I'm speaking about. Inshallah, the narration is going to come. Don't worry. طيب. I'm going to read another narration and then we'll start to get inside the other questions about siyam. Because it's going to come. I know it's going to come. There's another narration on Hamna. We'll take this and then I'm going to stop from the ahadith. And I'm going to go back to siyam. There's another narration on the authority of Hamna binti Jahsh. Hamna was the sister of Zainab binti Jahsh. That was her sister. So Zainab bint Jahsh, one of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, had a sister. Her name was Hamna. Hamna binti Jahsh. قالت. She said, كنت استحاض حيضة كثيرة شديدة. She said, I had istihada. So she said that she didn't have the first category. She had the what? Second. كنت استحاض. I had istihada. And she said it was bad. She said it was bad. She was bleeding a lot. So this happened during the time of the companions of the female companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they even had the same predicament in the same situation, just like the women of today. So what happened then is relevant to now. So she said, I came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, استفتيه فقال إنما هي ركضة من الشيطان فتحيضي 6 أيام أو 7 أيام ثم اغتسلي فإذا استنقأت فصلي 24 أو 23 وصومي وصلي فإن ذلك يجزئك وكذلك فافعلي كل شهر كما تحيض النساء فإن قويت على أن تؤخري الظهر وتعجلي العصر ثم تغتسلي. Till the narration. Anyway, she said when she went to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam seeking a fatwa from him, a religious ruling, a stafti. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, listen to this, sisters, verily that's a kick from shaitan. Rakdatun min ash-shaytan. It's a kick from shaitan. He kicked the vein, he ruptured it. He says, فَتَحَيَّضِي سِتَّةَ أَيَّامٍ. He says, of course, wait your mense period for 6 days. We're going to explain this. Trust me. Because a woman's mense is not, every woman's mense is different. Trust me. But the message of Allah is saying this for a reason. We're going to explain, inshallah. He says, wait for your mense to be, of course, 6 days or 7 days. Then make a ghusl. Then, if you're purified or you become purified, then pray 23. Pray 24 or wait 24 or pray 24 or 23, then fast, then pray. For verily that will suffice you. Likewise, do that every month, just as the women do. And if you're able to put off, meaning dhuhr, and pray with the asr, then make a ghusl until you become purified. Then pray dhuhr and asr together. Or if you want to now put maghrib off until what? تؤخرين المغرب وتعجلين العشاء. Put maghrib off until the time of Isha and also pray in that time, meaning combine them. Then make a ghusl and gather between, or perform, or combine between those salat, or the two salats. Then do so. Then make a ghusl for subh, for the morning, and then pray. قال وهو أعجب الأمرين إلي. That is the most what? Pleasing of both affairs to me. So now we're going to explain this. Gee. And then after that, we're going to get back to Siyam. So how are now so first, number one, what we want to say about this narration. So number one, this hadith is talking about what? Istihada, the second category. So keep that in your mind. It's talking about the second category. So you find that this type of blood, which is called damu fasad, يتسلط المرأة في وجود هذا الدم. So the shaitan has some empowerment over the woman due to this blood being present. And he whispers to her. And he also makes the affair difficult upon her. And he also likewise, this is what Sheikh Salih Fawzan even mentions this regard. He says, also shaitan casts upon her different types of confusion and problems. That's the reason why I tell our sisters to what? Make sure you make those remembrances of the morning and evening. Please. That will aid you, because we know our sisters are emotional. They're very emotional. I'm sure women knows, like we said, by their nature, sometimes they're happy 1 hour, sad another hour, mad another hour, and their hormones are going crazy. And shaitan loves to play with women in this regard. He loves it. Drive them crazy. And then the husband was looking at her, are you okay? Leave me alone. You'll be like, okay. Now this is the reason why we tell our sisters to what? Please make your supplications in the morning and evening. You have to. We live in days and times, it's almost as if we all of us cannot get through life except by the protection of Allah in our daily matters, in our families, in our children, and just dealing with people in general, due to all the different types of satanic inclinations that are out here. There's so many where one can fall into its trap. So, the message of Allah is clarifying that it's a kick from shaitan. So what does she do? So Shaykh Salih Fawzan says this is what shaitan loves. He loves to cast problems upon women. Drive them crazy. Now this is what he says. من أجل أن يغمها بذلك ويحزنها فهو يتخذ هذا المرض سبيلا لمضايقة المسلمين بالوسوسة والتوهم. Shaitan utilizes this in order to what? Give her some type of what? Turmoil, sadness, and grief. And he takes this type of sickness of istihada as a way in order to what? Make it difficult upon the Muslim women. By whispering to her and causing all types of tawheem or wahm. All types of what? Things which are misconstrued. So that's the first fa'idah from this hadith. Then you have the second tafsir. That the message of Allah said in another narration, verily that is a vein. Meaning that istihada is not a mense. It's just a ruptured vein or a hemorrhage that emanates from a vein. or a vessel, or blood vessel. طيب, just to combine between all these narrations, we gather up to say that the shaitan, la'anahullah, kicks this vein and he moves it until it explodes and ruptures. Alhamdulillah. He says, in order to what? In order to confuse the Muslim woman. For istihada, if the shaitan causes it, or the reason for cause of this is shaitan. And that the origin of it comes from this ruptured vessel, or this ruptured vein. In order to what? Cause some type of harm. Now listen to what Sheikh Salih Fawzan says, is exactly what I was just mentioning. He says, إذا لم يتحصل منه بالذكر والاستعاذة فلا منافاة بين كون الرسول علل ذلك بأنه عرق وبين تعليله له بأنه رقطة من الشيطان. He says that this will be an affliction from a person if he does not protect or fortify himself by the remembrance of Allah and seeking his protection and his refuge. And there's no contradiction between the two narrations where the Prophet ﷺ is saying that the reason for this is either due to a vein or that the shaitan kicking it. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ now said, wait 6 days or wait 7 days, why is he saying specifically these days? Now this is where some misunderstandings come into place or come into play. When the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, wait 6, wait 7, meaning leave off salat and siyam and fasting. And take in consideration that you're what? That you're having a mens for these what? These period of times, either 6 or 7. The Messenger of Allah, when he mentioned 6 and 7 here, he was just saying that this is, in most cases, what a woman's normal mens would be. Not in all cases. But هذا هو الغالب مدة الحيض. That is in most cases the amount of time of a woman's mens, but not with all women. So he's just giving the meaning of what would usually happen to a woman in most cases. Like it could usually be 6 or 7 days. فهي ليست للشك. Rather, when the Messenger of Allah said either 6 or 7, he was saying it due to the different types of women whose menses are what? Different. Not saying that this is the actual days that women have a mens. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? He says some women, of course we know, will have a mens for 6 days. Some women have a mens for 7. That's just most cases. Some of them it might be less than that. Some of them it might be more than that. So every woman will what? Follow what is her usual habitual time when she has her mens. طيب. When the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, then in the same narration he said, make a ghusl. He said, ثم اغتسلي. He said, هذا فيه أن الحائض تغتسل إذا تمت عادتها. Now we go into the third method. So the first method, sisters, we have what? We know that a woman's mens is usually by what? By there's black blood, the blackness of the blood, thick and what? Jaded. That's the first method. The second method, she takes that water, she sits in the tub. If the yellowness goes above the water, then she knows usually that's istihada to the end of it. طيب. Now we have a third one. And that's what this narration is talking about. We have a third method. They say that's the best method. The third one is a woman returning back to her mens when it was normal. When it was normal. I'm sure that every sister, not all sisters, but majority of women have a time where her mens was regular. Meaning every month it came on a certain day. To a point where a woman says, I know what usually women know, they'll say, for example, of course in themselves, they wouldn't say it to their husband, but they would say to themselves that I know my time is about to come. Right, everyone? Usually women knows in their bodies that they know that their time for their monthly cycle is about to start. Right, everyone? So it's going to start on this day. Usually women know. They say, I know that my day is about to come on this specific day. طيب. When a woman now, in this regard, what we're saying here, on this particular day, or these days, when it was habitually regular or was regulated every month, let's just say, for example, a woman's mens from, let's just say today, what's today, April? April, the woman knows her mens usually comes on April the 4th. And it usually lasts up to April, of every month it usually starts, so it comes on around the 3rd or the 4th. And likewise, May, the same thing, 3rd, 4th, up till the 10th or what have you. Then, likewise, June, likewise, July, likewise, September, October. It's habitual, it's regulated, right? So she knows that from the 3rd or the 4th of every month that her mens is going to come on. That's her mens in the period of days. It started from 3rd, let's just say up to the 10th, for example. Right, everyone? Taib. Now, is everyone with me? Taib. So now, those period of days from the 3rd all the way up to the 10th, she knows that is what? Hey, that's the first category. It's mens. She knows that. Right? So she knows that those days are her mens. So this is what the Messenger of Allah is teaching her here. Like, wait these days, meaning that you know these are the days that this is when you habitually have your mens, when it's regulated. So this is what the Messenger of Allah is trying to say here. Not to say that a woman's mens is these period of days for every woman, but saying that this, in most cases, that when a woman is on her mens, she waits these amount of days, or the days in which you women know when it comes on, or from when it starts to the days when it's over. And to take this as a way to know also likewise that this is a mens. Based upon when your mens is regulated, from the time, of course, when you know before, it got thrown off track due to something that might have happened. But before that, when your body was in its normal circumstance or what have you, you would start to count the mens from what? January, she knows her mens comes on for 3rd and 4th, all the way up to the 10th or the 11th, what have you. Then February, all the way up to December. That's when she habitually has her mens. Tayyib. Now, let's just say now something happened. So she noticed that blood started to now exceed that period of time of 6 or 7, or let's just say 8 days. She knows from the 3rd to the 10th or the 11th, that's mens. Tayyib. Now, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, I keep bleeding. What's going on? Right? What's going on? So now, this gives another type of method to let one know, okay, sister, if this is the case, where you're bleeding, go based upon when your mens is regulated, and you know from those times. Of course, we know from the major sign that a woman knows that she's on her mens is the cramps. It's usually a major sign to let her know that what is coming out of her right now is mens. That's usually the sign. Not all cases, but most cases. So the time where her mens starts, when she knows when it's about to start, all the way up to when it stops, when she knows when it usually stops, of course, when she has those cramps or whatever, that's a clear sign that it's what? It's a mens. Now when it starts to exceed the days of when she usually habitually has her mens, now we another hukum kicks in. Where the Messenger of Allah is saying now, from that time where you know habitually when your mens stops, if that blood continues, consider that what? Istihada. It's not a mens no more. It's istihada. Especially if it's the opposite of what we just mentioned. Of the other method, where it's not black, rather it's another color. It might be not black, but it's what? It's red. It doesn't have an odor, and it's kind of thin somewhat. If that's the case now, then it's istihada. That's why in this narration, the Messenger of Allah said, make a ghusl. Make a ghusl, because now the usual time, but when you habitually have your mens, has stopped now, because you know that. Meaning on the 10th day, that's when your mens, just for example, on the 10th day, you know that this is the time where my mens usually stops. So now it went beyond this day. So now it's going on to the 15th, to the 17th, to the 18th, to the 19th, to the 20th. I'm keep bleeding. What's going on with my body? So do I pray? Do I not pray? The Prophet ﷺ is saying here, Tayyib, the day when you know that habitually starts, up to the day when it habitually stops, consider those days your mens. After that, consider it istihada. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? I heard one sister say yes, one sister say no. She said no? Somebody said no? Oh, gee. So they hear the message of Allah ﷺ said, now, after that day, make ghusl, right? فَإِذَا تَمَّتْ عَدَتُهَا. So now her usually habitual days is over now. So now, what? Notice that the message of Allah ﷺ said, if you become purified, فَصَلِّ أَرْبَعَةَ وَعِشْرِينَ أَوْ ثَلَاثَةَ وَعِشْرِينَ وَصُمِّ وَصَلِّ to the end of it. He says, now what is the meaning of 24, 23? What is the meaning of this? He says, once you made a ghusl, consider yourself, you have purified from your mens. When he said, أَرْبَعَةَ وَعِشْرِينَ يَوْمٍ إن كانت عادتك 6 أيام أو 23 يوما إذا كانت عادتك 7 أيام فهاتان العادتان هما الأغلب عادات النساء. When the Messenger of Allah gave this number 24 or 20 what was it 24 or he said 25 or what have you, he was saying this based upon the fact of base your habitual mens based upon what your habitual mens and count the days, of course, based upon when it's usually supposed to be. He's just giving examples here for this particular sahabiyya. Not saying that this is the actual hukum for each individual woman. He was just giving an example here. So saying that if you're, let's just say, he's doing it based upon the end of the month. Like, for example, if you go towards the end of the month is over. And now if you was to subtract 7 days, usually in a month, 29 days, 30 days. Subtract 6. What would you get, everyone? Or subtract 7. How much would you get? Based upon minus 29 minus 7. What would you get? No. 29. Or 20, somebody get a calculator out. 29 minus, let's just say 6 or 7. Or 30 minus 6 or 7. As a matter of fact, put in 30 minus 6. What do you get? Put in 30 minus 7. What do you get? Jade. That's what I wanted to get to. Right there. So when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it, he said 23 days he was going based upon what was her habitual mens, but he was doing it based upon the end of the month, subtracting those days in which she usually has her mens. Subtracting it. But I was just giving an example, that's all. So he was just giving an example. Just to sum up everything, he was just saying to her, do everything habitually when it was normal. Then after, once it went outside that regular cycle, then consider yourself on istihada. That's just to basically sum up everything. So in that narration, he was just giving an example specifically for her. That's all. But not saying that that is the general hukum for all women. No, it's not the case. Because women, as we know, they are different as far as in their monthly cycle. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear? G. So in the last part of the narration, he says, وَكَذَلِكَ فَفَعَلِ كُلَّ الشَّهْرِ كَمَا تَحِيدُ النِّسَاءِ. He just said that, alhamdulillah, we just finished that. طيب. Now when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said in this last part, and I'm going to sum it up so we can get back to Siyam, he says, if you're able to put off Dhuhr, and you're able to now pray Asr, then make Ghusl. Alhamdulillah, we already just mentioned that. He says you combine between those two Salah, put off Maghrib, Isha, or put Maghrib to Isha, pray them together, to the end of it, of the narration. What do we say here? طيب, when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned this, he was just given another option. Not saying this is wajib. It's just another option. However, a woman can what? She can suffice by, if she's on istihada, she could just suffice by making a wudu. Like she make a wudu for every prayer without a ghusl. That's number one. Number two, she does have the option to combine her salat. Al-jam' bayn al-wudu wal-ightisal. She could combine, of course we know, making a ghusl in which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also gave her what? Instructions to do so. So she has the option to either what? If you want to make a wudu for every salah, or to make a ghusl, to combine. And if she wanted to make a ghusl, she could combine dhuhr with the asr, and maghrib with isha with another ghusl. So that's basically the option. It's an option, it's not obligatory, but it's to try to take off a difficulty and raise a difficulty upon her, or to relieve her of a burden due to the sickness she might have, or if she has istihaba. So is everything clear so far? Fine. Now we go back to siyam. What time is it? What time is it, Amir? What time is it, Amir? Oh, subhanallah. Right. Just to give a little benefits of, we'll talk about istihada next one. So, alhamdulillah, we gave a little benefit in that regard. Right. Question. Some of the women, the youthful women, you'll find that they say that the time for when a woman is supposed to perform her duties, meaning salat, siyam, is 16 years old. Is that correct? No, it isn't. And that a woman becomes puberty, but if she doesn't reach this age, she does not have to fast and she does not have to pray or what have you. As we know, this is what? Is this correct? But there's some sisters out there, let's just say, out of ignorance, they don't think that they have to pray or fast up till 16. And they missed some years, actually, where they did not fast the month of Ramadan. Out of ignorance. Is it upon them now to make up all those years prior? First of all, we say that a woman's, or a person in general, attains puberty by what, everyone? By either, number one, of course, a woman's mens. Number two, because hair around the private part, or if they have a wet dream. Or, in another one, they reach the age of 15. Tayyib, what does puberty now have to be because of all these signs appear, or just one? Just one. Jayyid. So if one appears, that suffices. And we know that can happen at a very early age. Right? It can happen at 10. It can happen at 11. It can happen at 12. Right or wrong? Once one of these signs have appeared, khalas, it suffices to know that the person has now reached the age of puberty where they have to now perform these duties. Tayyib. There's no specific age, as we know. In the Kitab al-Sunnah, there's no specific age. Until one of these signs have appeared, and we know that that person now has to what? Perform these duties. Tayyib. Now in regards to the woman who left out siyam. And let's just say she was shy to inform her family that now she has a mens. That she might have started having her mens around 12 or 13 or what have you. And she didn't want to fast because she was too shy to tell her parents. Tayyib. Now does she have to make up those fasts that has preceded all those couple of years that might have what? In which had already preceded, which she did not fast. We would say that the sister who did this out of ignorance, that she will have to what? Make up those days. If she's able to fast, then she'll have to make up those days. Those days that have what? Have passed for those previous years that she did not know, but she will still have to try her best to make up those days. And inshallah, bi'idhnillah, one can in fact make up those days in the month of winter. In the winter time, especially when the days are what? Are short. And it'll be easy. Inshallah, that will what? That will suffice. That's even what the great Imam Ibn Uthaymeen mentioned in this regard. He said, يتركون الصيام إن المرأة إذا بلغت بالحيض وهي صغيرة تستحي أن تخبر أهلها بذلك وتجدها أحيانا لا تصوم وأحيانا تصوم حتى وقت الحيض فيجب عليه القضاء في الصورتين وإذا كانت لم تصوم وجب عليه قضاء الشهر كاملا وإذا كانت تصوم حتى أيام الحيض وجب عليه قضاء أيام الحيض. جيد. Same thing. He said they would have to what? She would have to make it up those days. طيب. Now, in regards to another question for the sisters. A young youthful woman. She's young. فتاة. أتاها الحيض وهي في 14 من عمرها. وترك الصيام جهلا منها بأن البلوغ يحصل بذلك فما الحكم. He said there was a young woman who that her mens came as she was on her age. Her mens came when she was 14. However, she left off fasting out of ignorance. That bulugh, that puberty, did not take place yet. What do we say again? We say she doesn't have to make tawbah, of course. But what about those years where she started having her mens? Since she started having her mens, those months that she missed fasting Ramadan, does she have to make them up? Jayid. We say she would have to try to make those months up, the month that she missed the shahr up or the month up, but she does not have she does not have to make tawbah because she was what? Ignorant. But if she knew that she had to do this, then of course in both circumstances, whether she knew or she did not know, she still has to make the month of Ramadan up as much as she can of those days that had or the days that she missed. She would have to what? She would have to make them up. Because Buloogh, like we said, takes place either by what we just mentioned, either by having a wet dream, or pubic hair, or a woman's mens, or completing the age of 15. And it does not necessitate that all those signs have to appear. It can suffice by just seeing one and that's it. طيب. Another question. There was a young woman that had a mens, and she used to fast on the days while she was on her mens, out of ignorance. What do we say? A woman fasted basically while she was on her mens. Is her fast valid? Is her fast valid? No, it isn't. For that reason, she would have to make up what? She had to make up those days. Because like we said, the salah or the siyam here is not accepted. It's invalid. But as far as her being ignorant, like we said, does she excuse? She doesn't have to make tawbah, of course, because she was ignorant. Let's just say the opposite. What about a woman now that did not reach the age of puberty and she fasted? Let's just say she fasted while she didn't even reach the signs of puberty, did not appear whatsoever. Does that type of fast suffice for a fast that's obligatory? Does it? Alhamdulillah. Sister said no. Jade. Good answer. Does it suffice? Rather, that's in order to what? To show or to get her accustomed or acclimated towards the fast in which the Sahaba used to do. Another question. What about a woman that during the day or the month of Ramadan she started to fast? Matter of fact, during the middle of the day, her mens came on, just to say, in one of the days of Ramadan. Mens started to come on while she was. Matter of fact, let me reverse it. Reverse it. During the day, she came off her mens before Maghrib. Let's just say 2 hours before Maghrib. Does she now have to start fasting? Even though she came off her mens during a day in Ramadan? Let's just say now a woman woke up, she didn't fast because she's on her mens. It's about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Her mens went off. Is there anything upon her now? Does she have to now abstain from food and drink for the rest of those hours that's left in the day until Maghrib comes in? For the rest of the duration of those 2 or 3 hours? Or she has to fast. And she has to also pray too, right? The answer is wrong. Wrong. That answer is incorrect. If a woman now woke up in the month of Ramadan, she's not fasting. She's on her mens. Her mens stopped at 6 o'clock. Right? Due to the fact that we know that fasting initially for a fast that's obligatory has to start exactly from sun to sundown. For that reason, if this is the circumstance of the woman, she does not have to what? She doesn't have to fast. The rest of her day, she can what? Eat and drink. She can eat and drink, and she can also enjoy the rest of her day. But she would have to what? Make it up after the month of Ramadan. But she can eat and drink the rest of that day. Jayyid. There's also a narration on Ibn Mas'ud where Ibn Mas'ud even mentioned and said, he said, Man akala awwala an-nahar falyakul akhirahu. Even though they might say someone has some weakness in it, but it's correct. But he says that whoever eats on the first part of the day, then let him eat the last part. But Ibn Mas'ud was only talking about those who broke their fast due to a specific legislated reason, not because he did something haram. He's talking about someone who broke it due to a mani', due to, for example, of something that he had to either break a fast because of a sickness or for example, traveling, or if a woman was on her mens. So we'll talk about the conditions of fasting for it to be valid. We'll talk about that inshallah. طيب. Let's reverse it. Now let's reverse this whole example. Let's just say a woman woke up, she was fasting, she started her fast for Fajr. Now here's a curveball. Let's just say now a woman, let's listen. So let's just say she was on her mens. Tying this all in. She was on her mens. She purified herself. She took a ghusl. Now this is a little slightly hard. She made a ghusl. Now she woke up before Fajr for suhoor. Ate a suhoor. Now the day she started her fast. So now let's just say around 12 o'clock for dhuhr, she sees some type of yellow spotting. Yellow spotting, and she sees some discoloration. So a woman says, SubhanAllah, what do I do? Does she keep fasting? Because this is a mens. This is a curveball. So, a woman would fast, or she would keep or break her fast? She's seen discoloration, huh? That answer is correct. Why? We got to go know the reason why, though. Jay, but just listen. Just listen. We're going to get into the narration of the Prophet ﷺ. Don't worry. We're going to get into the narration where the Prophet ﷺ said of what we're going to talk about. Don't worry, it's going to come. That the Sahabiyah, where she said, I think it's Atiyah, the narration of Atiyah, where she said, كُنَّا لَا نَعُدُّ الْكُدْرَ وَالصُّفْرَ فِي عَهْدِ النَّبِي بَعْدَ الطُّهْرِ شَيْءٍ. We're going to get into that narration. Where she said, during the time of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, we never considered yellowness or discoloration after a woman becomes purified, nothing. So after a woman is purified and she sees some discoloration, she still prays and she still fasts, regardless. Jayyid? Because the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave it clear instructions. Or excuse me, the Sahabiyya said during the Messenger of Allah, she said, during this time, we never, after a woman become, listen to the key note she mentioned here in the narration. She said, we never considered after purification, after purification, discoloration or yellowness. We never considered it to be anything. Meaning that we still fasted, we still what? We still fasted and we still prayed. Jayyid. So a woman now, she's during Ramadan. She became out of her mens, whatever. She made a ghusl, or what have you. But like we said, because we're going to get into the narrations, ghusl is not a condition for siyam. Is it clear what I'm saying, sisters? Jayyid. So a woman will wake up, let's just say, for example, she had a wet dream or what have you, or she was intimate with her spouse the previous night, whatever. She woke up an hour before suhoor. Or 20 minutes before Fajr. She ate suhoor, but she's still in the state of major impurity. She ate suhoor, then Fajr came in. Her siyam, as we're going to talk about, inshallah, don't worry, her siyam is still valid even though she's in the state of major impurity. Is it clear what I'm saying? Because major impurity is not a condition or purification or being in the state of wudu or major impurity. Or minor impurity or major impurity is not a what? Condition for siyam. Is it clear? What I'm saying that is, if you're doing it, of course, in a halal manner, not which is haram. I'm not talking about haram. Like for example, let's just say a person took a nap while he was fasting. He woke up and had a wet dream. He had a wet dream, or she had a wet dream. So now they're in the state of what, everyone? Major impurity, right? They'll have to make a what? Ghusl. Did they nullify their siyam? No. Siyam is still what? Still valid. Still valid. We're not talking about what's done unlawfully. Haram. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something that might have happened before Fajr or what have you. Person was intimate with their spouse, whatever. Some intimacy took place before Fajr, whatever's people's business. But before 20 minutes, like we said, he woke up for suhoor, ate it, and then when Fajr came in, he's still in the state of major impurity. Still, he or she is in the state of major impurity. Here, their fast is still valid. Jayyid? Tayyib. Now, I'll give another example. Let's just say now a woman wakes up. Now here's another good example. Let's just say a woman wakes up, she ate her suhoor. She woke up, ate her suhoor, started her fasting, whatever. Tayyib. Day goes on and on and on. She's fasting all day long. All the way up to maybe 10 minutes before Maghrib comes in. Now her mens comes on. Her mens does come on 10 minutes before Maghrib. And she knows it for sure. She sees the blood clearly. What do we say about her fast? Is her fast valid or invalid? What do we say, sisters? Is it valid or invalid? 10 minutes before Maghrib. 10 minutes before Maghrib. So she's been fasting all day long. 10 minutes before Maghrib. Her fasting is what? It's invalid. Good answer. Let's just say now she's been fasting all day long until Maghrib came in, and then maybe 2 minutes after Maghrib came in, she looked down and she's on her mens. Is her fast valid or invalid? Is her fast? I didn't mean to tell the answer. Is that fast valid or invalid? It's valid. It's valid until she sees it clearly. So even if it's a minute after Maghrib came in and it just started and you see it, fasting is still valid. Still valid. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? طيب. Now somebody asked a question. Someone before they were practicing did not fast, and someone ignorant of Allah was as he is, but knew about fasting, but was not practicing. Does the person have to pay for those years a kafara or fast them? What should the individual do because they were aware of the fasting? That they were aware of fasting. Pillar of Islam, perhaps they were also not praying or they weren't praying at the time either. Ooh, that's a problem. For the person who was not praying, due to the fact majority of Ahl Ilm will find and say that Siyam is not valid until the person starts praying. The person has to pray for his Siyam to be valid. Because a lot of Ahl Ilm say that a person is not praying, they're not even in the fold of Islam. Which is very, very dangerous to leave off the Salat. Leaving off the Salat is very, 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 very dangerous. Very dangerous that for a person to be leaving off the Salat. It's something that is tremendous. Until you'll find, like we said, a majority, especially the majority of the Imam of these days, from Ibn Uthaymeen, the Sheikh Ibn Baz, the Sheikh Salih Fawzan, and all of them from the Lajna Da'ima and other than them, are saying that the person's Siyam is not even valid until a person starts praying. Until he starts his prayer. It starts being observant, or observing his or her prayer, and being steadfast upon praying it. So it's very dangerous. At any rate, if this is the state of the person and they started to be upright, then Allah Ta'ala, Yatuba ila man tab, of course he accepted Tawbah. Based upon this, and we'll also bring the fatwa of Shaykh Uthaymeen, now he says, do I have to make up those rest of those months of Ramadan that have preceded, even though I wasn't praying? We would say in this case, if a one starts praying, you start praying your salat, then Allahu Alam, and inshallah I'm going to check this for this regard just to make sure, and I'll get back to the answer later on. I'll get back to the answer later on. But the first thing of the person is what? Let he or she have neglected their prayers, start praying. Start being praying. Then, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, I'll get back with the answer in regards to whether or not they have to make up those fasts of Ramadan that they missed. I'll get back with the answer to that later, inshallah. That was a side question. Next question. No, this is the same. This is basically the same one. Sister now, a woman, she becomes purified from her ments. I mean, that's the same. We'll read it just to give another example. No problem. A woman becomes purified from her ments or from her postnatal bleeding during the day. Does she have to what? Does she have to fast the rest of her day? We already answered this. She has to? All right, yes, we already answered it. طيب. Try to give another example. Anyway, yeah, we'll stop with that. طيب, as far as we can answer this question, then we'll stop. This is the last question, and we'll stop for the day. A person now who's a non-Muslim, a non-Muslim becomes Muslim during the day of Ramadan. Do they have to fast the rest of that day if they become Muslim in that particular day? I'll ask the question again. If a non-Muslim becomes Muslim during the day of Ramadan, is it binding upon them to fast the rest of that day, the rest of the remainder of the day that they became Muslim in? All right, now I'm going to get the conditions. Now write this down. Once you write this down, we'll stop. And you should be able to maybe answer this. You should be able to answer this. Number one, the conditions for a person to fast, they have to be what? Number one, Muslim. Number two, they have to reach the age of puberty. That's number two. Muslim, they also have to be aqil. They have to be sane. You have to be sane in the state of sanity. Not insanity, sanity. You have to be aqil. You have the right state of mind. Muslim, baligh, aqil. Qadir, also having the ability. Having ability, meaning physically. Number five, has to be resident. Resident in his or her area, or the place where they live, a resident, not traveling. What's the opposite of not traveling? Resident? Being a resident. Resident? Fine. Number five, the person being muqim, being a resident, not traveling. Number six is khalin min al-mawani'. Khalin min al-mawani'. Khalin min al-mawani'. Meaning that is void of those matters that's considered a mani'. Meaning that it will prohibit one from fasting, not due to the fact that they're not from the people that they have to perform it, but if there's something blocking it temporarily, such as a woman's mens. Is it clear what I'm saying? So due to the fact a woman, even though she's on her mens, she's still for the people that still have to what? Fast. But the thing that's prohibiting her, that's stopping her, is what? It's her mens. But she's still from the people that's still fast. However, if we go back to the first condition, he's what? He's not Muslim. So the duty of Islam is not upon him or her. Because she's not from the people of an obligation, because they never became from its people yet. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? Are they calling you then already? Wow. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الصيف فضيل وبعد. What time is it? What time is it? 4:52? Wow. Okay. We have to stop for the salah. I think we have to stop for the prayer. But I'm going to tell the person who asked this, I'm going to give them the answer. Just give me till next class. I know this is his repentance. And I'm going to give them the answer. I want to give them, I know where I can find an answer to this. I just want to give it to him directly. I want to read it. Right. So due to the fact that the person was not for the people of wujub, or the people of where it's an obligation upon them yet, because they never became from its people yet, until they became Muslim. So if that's the case, you'll find that Ahl Ilm say that once a person becomes Muslim, then it's binding upon, of course, to fast for the rest of that day. And they would not have to make it up after the month of Ramadan. Because the reason why I gave the sisters those details is because they say, well, what's the difference between What's the difference between now a person who's a non-Muslim and he became Muslim in the middle of the day, and a woman who came off her mens in the middle of the day, and she doesn't have to, she can't just fast the remaining hours, but she still has to make that day up. In contrast to a non-Muslim who became Muslim in the middle of the day, and he would just have to fast that rest of that day, and he doesn't have to make it up. That's because there's a difference between what they call a person that's tajaddudul wujub and what they call the affair of a person that's khalan min al-mawani' in fiqh. It's a difference between a person, the duties haven't been binding upon them yet, and a person that the duties are binding upon them, but there's something that's a mani', a barrier blocking them from not performing it. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? There's a difference between a person that the duties is not binding upon them yet. Why? Because they're not Muslim yet. And a person that the duty is binding upon them, they know it. They're from its people now. They're from Ahl Islam, Ahl Millah. But the reason why they can't perform it is because of what? It's a mani'. It's something that's what? Blocking them from performing that duty that Allah has what? Has said that they cannot fast due to that mani'. Due to that barrier or whatever. Or what was prohibiting or holding them back from doing it. So a woman now will have to make it up at the month of Ramadan. Even though she can eat and drink for the rest of that day. Because, you understand what I'm saying, everyone? In contrast to a non-Muslim, then they say that he would fast for the rest of the day, or he or she would not have to make up that particular day. There is some khilaf in the issue, in this particular mas'ala about the non-Muslim who becomes Muslim in the middle of the day of Ramadan. Do they have to fast, or do they have to, do they fast for the rest of the day, or they have to, or do they just fast the remainder of the hours that's left in the day and they make it up again after the month of Ramadan is over? There is some khilaf in that particular matter. But, however, the best thing to say, you'll find it, even Shaykh Uthaymeen says in a lot of places, and I've also looked at a lot of his statements. He said that the person that fasts for the rest of the day for a non-Muslim, it does suffice. But he says, just to be sure, then to fast after the month is over. And any time he wants. If the days, of course, in the wintertime where the days are shorter, whatever's easy. So it's at the end of the day, it's only one day. One day, because a person became Muslim and from non-Muslim to a Muslim in one day. So what would it hurt to just make up one day? He said just to be sure. But you'll find in a lot of majority of his statements, he says if they would fast the rest of the remainder of the day, whatever's left, when they became Muslim to the point where Maghrib went down, he said that would suffice. But just for security or precautionary measures, to make that particular day up. Is it clear what I'm saying? So we'll stop here, inshallah. There's a lot of other things we'll talk about. Alhamdulillah, as more details of Siyam will be tonight, inshallah, for class. So we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم بارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions about the lesson? About